"We thought it could never happen to us." Police say a 15-year-old Thurston High School student entered his school cafeteria and opened fire on more than 300 students. The victims, one dead student, 2 dead adults believed to be the suspect's parents, and 23 injured bystanders, some of whom are fighting for their lives tonight.
We were live on the morning show. We just cut in live to everything. I mean, we were all over this thing. I think we went on at 7:30, 8 o'clock, shortly after it happened.
It was just crazy out here. It was mostly parents pulling up and, you know, running and screaming and looking for someone to tell them whether their child was okay.
The people just started pouring in. It was like all of a sudden you looked up around noon, and CNN was here, Japanese television, people from Ireland, all over the world were just, there was, in front of Thurston High School was just a crowd of live satellite trucks and just feeding and feeding. It was a circus. It was crazy.
I wonder if I can show you right over this direction. Rob, can we? Yeah, we go. Look at, this is what it looks like out here in front of tiny little Springfield, Oregon at Thurston High School. You've got just a barrage of media and folks here.
Our whole thing was, I'm there to tell people, you know, what's the newest thing? What do we know? How many kids are injured? You know, how many dead?
And it really hits home and you're thinking, this is not a dream. This has really happened. So I think that's what a lot of people are doing, driving by, curiosity seekers, and looking and saying, I can't believe this happened in our community.
But you know what? I think that's what made the local media stand out, because all 3 stations were looked at by the police and the public relations people for the cities and everything. We did a great job. We didn't sensationalize it. The national media, they were bad.
The local media, when they would hear something from somebody outside of the governmental system, whether it's the school or the police or the city, they would be able to check it out because they would call it. I received a number of calls making inquiries about, is this factual or is this bogus? The national media made no effort to do that.
People, they were sneaking in the hospitals to try to get to victims and stuff. They were, you know, lying and going behind the scenes, and it was pretty nasty.
This guy went into his house and found this TV crew in his home, filming the yearbook, with nobody else in the home. And they actually were trespassing or burglarizing his home.
The local media were a lot more empathetic towards the families and the students who were shot, whereas the national media tended to sensationalize an awful lot of it because it sold sound bites.
There were reports put out on AP, on the wire services, that were false. They were misleading because they'd talked to some 15-year-old who didn't know really what they were talking about, and it would be reported then as a gospel.
Your job is not to blow it up, not to make it into something hysterical, not to do the sad story of this person or that person. To me, your role should be to make sure people know the hits, runs, and errors of what's happened, to know what we know, to guide people to stay away from the school, to make the scene more comfortable, you know, for the police, and let people know. Because what are you wondering at home? You have to think about, what do you want to know if you're sitting at home? I want to know, is my kid okay? How many kids are injured? What's the scene look like?
Yes, my boyfriend was killed today. He was a junior. He was 17 years old. He was really quiet. He was really smart. He didn't get the greatest grades in the world, but he could have. He liked to read a lot. We were both going into the military, and he just was a great guy. You know?
What was his name again?
Michael Nicolason.
Yes.
The journalist needs to ask themselves, what if this was my wife, my child, my mother, my father? If these were my relatives, my kinship, my blood, would I want a media person sticking a mic in my face to ask about this because it's newsworthy or that the American people need to know?
It's probably the worst and the best day I've ever had in television. The worst because it was my neighborhood and my community, and I was dying inside because I didn't know if my friends were in there. And these are my neighbors, you know, that were here. But the best day because you really felt like you were doing your job. That's what we're here for. That's what news is supposed to be, is giving people valuable information that keeps them in line, you know, that allows them to know what is the very latest thing going on.
And really, the media is important to us. It's important to us not only from my perspective as a police organization, but as a community, because we needed to get information out to the community.
Yeah, we probably watched it as long as they had it on the television, because you kind of watch the news every night, you know, just to get a, you know, what's the updates, what's, you know, what happened, what is there more so? Oh, he killed his parents, you know, we didn't know about this, you know, we just thought he shot people at a school, but then they do an investigation at the house, and they kind of pry into like different spots and find out more and more and just kind of dig deeper until you get the whole story.
There was times when I'd have to go do a story and I'd feel kind of sick about it, because I'd think, you know what, this is like taking my community back through this, and I don't, where is my job? You know, what am I? Am I a journalist or a community member? Well, I'm both. So when does one get to be the other?
Place we can take pictures with.
You guys are church, you know that?
Well, we all have jobs to do.
They kept, you know, again rationalizing that, you know, this is newsworthy and the people have the right to know. At the price of these kids' life and the family's life. I mean, we were horribly traumatized by this entire event.
It just, you know, kept bringing up the images. I mean, I'm sure people that were actually in the cafeteria have a lot worse images than I had. You know, I can still see the images in my head when I think back about it, like right now. You can, you know, you see the people running and all that stuff, and it just, you know, you try and put it back behind you, you know.
It wasn't like we could just forget about it. You know, we had a constant reminder.
Just kind of wanted to be left alone, didn't want to, you know, have to come to school every day and face, you know, a bunch of media sitting outside your school while you're trying to forget about everything and try to, you know, go about your classes and studies and stuff and finish up the year. And then you walk back outside to catch the bus or whatever, and there's still a bunch of cameras there trying to, you know, get a shot of whatever they're trying to shoot, I guess.
I would say after 2 weeks, they should have allowed people to start to heal. But I would say it went on for months, because any little thing that came up, it was like all of a sudden all the local media were asking for interviews and what do you think about this?
And especially when it happens in your town and you've been here a while, because then all of a sudden you're thinking, in the big picture, my community has to heal from this. And is it good to keep throwing it in your face? You know, and yet, news-wise, a trial date comes up, it is something you need to talk about and say something.
Yeah, we've got no qualms with the local media. I thought they did a very good job. I think, you know, that was pretty much 24-hour coverage for a couple of days, it seemed like. But I think by and large they were responsible.
I think they actually did a pretty good job of doing what they need to do. That's kind of like what you do as a reporter, as a news station. You want the news. I mean, not that you want to hurt people's feelings or, you know, bring up old stuff, but that's just other people want to know what's going on too.
It was a huge story, and I think they should have all been here because the world needed to see it, you know. But I think the pressure to get the story and get something better than everybody else does, it's the weirdest thing about this business, because it's what you want. You know, you want to get that little thing nobody else has, but then you're constantly evaluating, is it worth it? Is it worth it?
This morning it was so difficult coming out here. I live out this direction, so a lot of these kids, you're walking up as a, you know, as the journalist guy trying to do a story, and you walk up and you're thinking, but I wonder if, you know, Kelly and Missy and these people are okay. And so as I'm doing my job, I'm also checking out that list and hoping and praying that I don't see any names that I know, and then watching these parents, you know, who are our viewers every night, and looking at their faces as they, you know, the fear, and then as they find out that yes, their son or daughter was one of these people, and the tears and the, you know, the emotion that was going on. It was just, you know, this is our community, and I think it really pulls people together, and you look at it and say, how can this happen?
It was painful. It was really painful. It didn't go away for a long time. It you know, it doesn't ever go away for me. I mean, I still remember it. You know, I was there. It affected my career. It changed everything about me. I mean, in terms of a journalist, because I understood that I'm a member of this community and a journalist and a human being. Those are three people in one. And it used to be I'm a journalist and I'm here to do my job. Now it became I'm three in one.